Welcome back. I'm continuing to share stories that I've written on medium.com. And this project was started in October of last year. And even though I got a little off track, it's still a project that I wanted to finish. So let me go ahead and finish getting set up here. See if I can do this. Okay. Well, I'm guessing that I am live, although I can't see it on my laptop. And I am still working out how all this works. I'm just hoping that my orientation is correct. It would make it really hard for you to see otherwise. So let me see. Okay. And let me see if I can see this. If I go to my channel, it said I needed to be in the studio. That's what happens when you take some time off, when you're just getting used to something, and then all of a sudden you're not doing it every day and you forget things. So let me see my studio. Okay, I didn't want my Google account, did I? I wanted to, I don't want to go live on there because I'm already live on my phone, right? Can't do that. And I can't see anybody's comments, so that's really, really what I'm trying to get figured out. So, let me try this one more time. There it is. Okay. You really do need to go to your channel. Okay. And okay, so last time I stopped with I really do need to figure this out. Last time I stopped with I really do need to. I am so sorry. Okay, let me. Oh goodness, and I got some horrible feedback. I don't know what that's about. I've got this horrible echo. Okay. So today maybe I've got too much equipment here. I'm not sure. If you can hear a horrible feedback, would you please let me know? Oh, I can, and it's driving me crazy. Okay. I'm going to try this for 5 minutes or so and see if it helps. Maybe I need to turn that volume down. Maybe that might help. Okay, so I'm starting today, and when I was reading before, I left out several stories that I had written on medium.com because they were more essay type commentaries or personal experiences or just news items. And I realized that I really do need to, if I'm going to move everything that I've written from medium.com over to the YouTube channel, that I need to include those others as well. And so, um, this may be a story that I wrote, an article that I wrote that I wouldn't necessarily have shared before, but I really did need to move everything over. That's part of my project. So, and I don't know if you're new here or not, but this is a project that I've been wanting to finish for a while. I've been writing on medium.com for about 4 years now, and yes, and so I wanted to record all of the articles and the stories, everything that I've written there. I wanted to record on my YouTube channel because I may not stay with medium.com. They've changed their algorithm so much, and I'm not writing as much fiction on there as I used to. So I wanted to have this as a legacy for my kids, and I think I've encouraged a lot of you to keep a maybe you don't want to vlog anything, but just record things for your children and your grandchildren so that they'll always have these stories that you've written in your own words, and with your own expressions, the way you wanted them to be read. There's so many of my stories that I'm using um, different programs to do the reading. I'm using someone else's voices, and sometimes it's not really the way that I wanted them to be read, but it's close enough to where I will go ahead and accept that anyway. But these are primarily for my children and for my friends to enjoy. When I'm not there in person. Okay, so I was going to start today with a story, with an article called "Don't Pay for Expensive Vacations Anymore," and it's about car camping. And one of the reasons why um, I have always been interested in car camping, and some of this I'll get into in the article as well, is because a few years ago I thought that I wanted to do more car camping, and I have done some, and I've enjoyed it every time that I've done it. It just gets a little more difficult as you get older, and I think I'm spoiled to being inside where it's warm, especially in these cold winters. So I'm going to get right into the article. About 3 years ago, I started watching Bob Wells' YouTube videos about van camping and those who choose to live a nomadic lifestyle. I was still working full time, but dreaming about retiring and traveling, and this seemed like the perfect solution. My son bought lumber and supplies, pulled out some of the seating in my 2013 Dodge Caravan, and built a bed platform for me. I used the space under the frame for storage and packed it full of stuff I thought I would need while I was off gallivanting in the woods, mountains, or by the ocean. And I've been car camping in all of those places. I planned my first weekend trip about 4 hours away from my home and just fell in love with the solitude. I spent 2 days beside a quiet section of Fort Gibson Lake in Oklahoma, listening to the water lap against the shore and watching the birds. It was heavenly. That trip was enough to convince me that I could love living this kind of lifestyle. To achieve that goal, I needed to get in a better position financially, which meant I had to keep working and pay off a few more debts. My oldest son helped me out when he gifted me some money out of the blue, and it was just enough to pay off my Dodge. Last September, I stopped working and took my first cross country trip to Washington State. That's where he lives. I parked in rest areas and truck stops overnight, and I loved every minute of it. But I discovered during that trip that half of the stuff I'd packed I never even used or looked at. I'd listened to enough interviews on Bob's channel that warned against packing too heavily, and finally I understood why. You just don't need as much as you think you will. I was so excited to find so many other writers on medium.com who enjoy camping, hiking, and backpacking, and who write about their adventures and love of traveling so that some of us can live vicariously through them. Until we can make adventures of our very own, anyway. Whether you prefer camping as a solitary experience or enjoy being surrounded by other campers, there's a campground out there just for you. In her article about campground life, Kathy Wells Macomber describes a campground scene that will make you long to be right there in the middle of all the fun, laughter, and camaraderie. And then I linked it to an article that another Medium writer had written. There's also another husband and wife team, I think, called Backroad Packers, who discuss camping resources, where to camp for free, the pros and cons of free camping, and what basic supplies you're going to need when you go camping. They also have recommendations on some of their favorite camping spots. Now, backpacking is true camping, not the van camping that I do. So there's another writer on here, John Joseph, who talks about traveling on foot with your supplies in a pack you carry. I don't know that I would be that brave. He rhapsodizes over nature's serenity and views so incredible they look like screensavers. And the thing is that I've got a screensaver on my laptop that I took when I was visiting my son in Washington State. And it looks just like a screensaver that you would buy. It's just absolutely perfect. What resonated with me is this one author's description of a feeling that when you're out in nature, you dream of being back in your comfy bed, but when you're safe at home, you crave to be out in nature once more. That I have felt that so many times. I don't know if it's something that you have to experience to really appreciate, but I've told my children this before, that when I'm here at home, it's hard for me to imagine being out in the car, sleeping in the car every night and traveling and being somewhere new every day. But then when I'm in the car, it's hard for me, and when I'm van camping, it's hard for me to imagine being stuck here inside every day and not being out in the fresh air and not seeing something fresh and new every day. It's a very, very strange feeling. Another writer advises you to work with what you've got, and this is true with van camping. Don't wait and think that you have to have the perfect van, or you have to have everything fitted out, just perfectly for camping. You can like what my son did with me when he built a bed platform. That's the only change that I really ever made to the van, was putting in that bed platform along the passenger back, and it's about 3 feet wide, but it goes the entire length. And it was just perfect for sleeping one person, and yet it didn't take away any of my storage space. It everything else, fit around it. I didn't need to have built-in cabinets, and I've seen a lot of people who live in their vans and who have put a lot of money into getting it ready and it's almost like a little mobile home that they're living in, but mine wasn't like that, but it still felt very cozy and very home-like. You can work with what you've got. And he said that everything you need is probably already in your house right now. There were a couple of things that I did get when I was camping. I bought a Jackery, just the smallest one. Well, it might have been the medium-sized one. Um, and it was, and it's. I mean, I'm using it right now actually, even here at the house. It's just a really good source of backup power. And the only other thing that I bought is a little Coleman stove to cook on because I do like to have my hot tea early in the mornings. Well, actually, I'm drinking tea now, so any time of day, really. And there is another uh, person who writes on medium.com that goes by Tacoma Traveler Chronicles. And they publish an article similar to John Joseph's above and talk about the experiences that campers have, the urge to get out in nature again, to get on the road again. And, you know, once winter's over and spring starts coming, I'll probably want to do that as well. Right now, it just feels too cozy inside my house. I can't imagine being out there and being cold every morning. So, I'm going to finish up the way that I wrote the article now. It says, reading these wonderful articles on camping reminds me of how I felt when I first decided this is what I want to do: travel and see new places, meet new people, and get out of my bubble. It's been a long, cold winter. I think I wrote this article in April of 2022. And it's, winters here has only been going on for what, a month now, and it already feels way too long. And then I finished it up by saying it's time to get out there and explore, to make some adventures and memories. Okay. And now let's go to my next article that I'm trying to save. And that was in April of 2022. Yes. Okay. And we've got, okay, my next article that I wrote. I was always looking for, if you've done any writing, you might have come across the same situation yourself. Um, I was always looking for series of articles, like topics that I could do that would be in a series that I could write on for Medium. And hold on just a second here. And I'm going to, oh, okay. All right. And so one of the series that that I started was a series of articles on events that happen periodically, like for instance, April 10 in this case, it has been designated Encourage a Young Writer Day. And this worked out really well today because um, Medium is a platform for writers, and I always have believed and told other people as well that you have a story inside you. All of us have stories, and many of us have more than one. And the it is such a creative relief to sit down and write those stories out, not just so that you can read them or that other people can read them, even if nobody else reads them. There's just such a feeling. I think that's the reason why a lot of people journal, because there's such a satisfying feeling in putting what is in your head down onto paper, and then at some point reading them back. Sometimes you almost don't even recognize yourself, because we all change, but we tend to let days kind of flow together. And when you journal, even if it's not every day, if you journal periodically, then you have a way to remember the past a little bit more clearly than you did before. Yes, Amanda, I can see your comments. Thank you very much. But I wasn't sure you'd be here today. Okay, so April 10 is Encourage a Young Writer Day. And so that's what this article was about. Children are natural storytellers. Have you ever heard a child talk about monsters in the closet, or purple tigers, or their special invisible friend? They have such a vivid and creative imagination, and they tell a story so convincingly that you sometimes get caught up in the tale and begin to ask questions. This is the age when writing should be most encouraged. This one young writer that I found an article by her, or an article about her, I'm sorry. Her last name was Gupta. She actually became a published author at the age of 7, and it can happen. Young people, when encouraged to develop their imaginations, sometimes have a desire to write and share their stories with others. Recently, I wrote a short news piece on an 8-year-old from Idaho, Dylan Helbig, who wrote a book and placed it in his local library. His book has become so popular in the library that it has a years-long waiting list. But Dylan isn't the world's youngest author. Abhijita Gupta from Ghaziabad, India. I know I'm probably butchering that name all to pieces. According to the International Book of Records, is the world's youngest author, having published her first book at the age of 7 during the pandemic. Her mother recounts that at the age of 5, Abhijita asked for a pencil to write down her thoughts and did a wonderful job of it. Her mother continued to support and encourage her daughter to journal and write stories. The Guinness Book of World Records, however, lists 4-year-old Dorothy Straight as the world's youngest commercially published author for her book, How the World Began, in 1962. Each record book has its own qualifications to earn the award. There are dozens of young writers out there who have written and published their work before the age of 20. Writing is one career that takes no special training or years of preparation in order to begin. Most writers have a special fondness for reading, for books, and for the printed word wherever they find it. For a child to develop a love of books and writing usually indicates a parent or caretaker who has instilled a special feeling that books are magical places where exciting things can happen. If there is a young person in your life who shows interest in books, try giving them a journal or a diary as a gift. When you talk to them about books, Use a tone of voice that tells them you are on equal footing. Speak to them as an individual, not as a child. If they are interested in fan fiction or comics or poetry, encourage those areas of writing too. April 10 is National Encourage a Young Writer Day. Many libraries and schools will have activities and events on this date to encourage children of all ages to write poems, essays, stories, and other projects to develop interest in writing skills. Encourage the young writer in your life. Tell them you write on Medium and share with them how being a writer makes you feel. And then I left a little note at the bottom of that one too, and I said, on a personal note, my fingers still itch when I see a tempting book cover. But then I love the smell of a new book straight from the bookstore shelf. Okay. All right, so that was April 10 is Encourage a Young Writer Day. You know, I think I might have published this one as well. I don't know that I read it though, but I'm pretty sure that I've published it as a standalone story in my list, so you might check for that one. On here I named it Vulcan Crew Assists the Launching of the RMS Titanic. And this was like a fictionalized story of the setting sail of the Titanic. Oh, Amanda, I'm sorry that you're sick too. I'm actually not 100% myself after being sick last week. I still have like some congestion in my head, in my sinuses. I can still feel it, and so it's just really taken a while to get over this one. Although I would say that I haven't lost my voice like my daughter has. Okay. Our ship will sail at noon. All morning we've been standing in line to board, but it has taken quite some time as there are over 1,300 of us traveling together. My name is Bertha Smith, and this is my first ocean trip. It's my first trip anywhere, actually, and my first time away from home. My cousin Bernard paid my fare so that I could join him and his new family in New York City. My mother has 7 other children at home, so she was actually kind of relieved that she's losing a mouth to feed. At 17, I have very little prospects for marriage, and I know I must be a complete burden to her that she is glad to hand over to Bernard, who has always been good to us. Even still, today is the most exciting day of my life. My cousin has told me that in America, it is possible for your biggest dreams to come true, even my dream of becoming a famous writer. That is the main reason I keep a diary and write in it every day. There is so much I want out of life, but to write is my purpose. I feel it in my bones. Looking over the ship's railings at the hundreds of people hurrying in every direction makes me want to jump up and down with giddiness. But I tamp down that feeling and just allow myself a smile so wide I feel my cheeks begin to ache. We're moving. I feel the gentle sway under my feet and try to keep my balance. Other passengers stand beside me, waving and throwing farewell confetti at the thousands crowded below. I've just met the most fascinating woman from America. She told me her name is Molly. She lives in a place called Texas, and she is so friendly, even though her clothes and jewelry are so expensive looking. Rich people usually treat me as if I'm invisible, but not Molly. She told me that the captain's last name is Smith. It's Smith, too. I don't think we are related, though. When Molly asks me a question, she waits for me to answer and treats me like a friend. If that's what all Americans are like, I am so happy to be going there. All of us are staring at a ship next to us that seems to be too close. It says SS City of New York on the side, and her mooring cables just snapped. Crewmen and people on the dock are all yelling, and I'm not sure what's going on. A sailor runs by Molly and me shouting about a tugboat in the harbor. Molly tells me that a tugboat named Vulcan is near the New York and will tow her to a safe distance. I found out later we only missed scraping her by 4 feet. So much excitement, and we haven't even left port yet. We are finally out in the English Channel now, but before heading to America, we have to pick up more passengers in Cherbourg, France, and the next day again in Queenstown, Ireland. After that, though, I will see the Atlantic Ocean for the first time, and we will land in New York on April 17, 1912, where I will begin my new life in a new country that I will call home. Now, as a note, not really a prologue, but sort of. No, epilogue. On this date in 1912, and that was April 17, the Titanic set sail for New York. 4 days later, she hit an iceberg near Newfoundland at 11:40 p.m. at night and sank over the next few hours. At 2:20 a.m., the ship broke apart, and over 1,000 people still on board perished. To this day, it remains the deadliest sinking of a cruise ship during peacetime. Oh, there's also another note about to bring the Titanic experience to the modern age. There is a Chinese shipbuilding company known as Wuchang Shipbuilding Industry Group Company Limited, who commenced construction in November 2016 to build a replica ship of the Titanic for use in a resort. The vessel will house many features of the original, such as a ballroom, dining hall, theater, first-class cabins, economy cabins, and swimming pool. Tourists will be able to reside inside the Titanic during their time at the resort. It will be permanently docked at the resort and feature an audiovisual simulation of the sinking, which has caused some criticism. It forms the centerpiece of a Sichuan province theme park more than 1,000 kilometers, 620 miles from the sea. As of August 2021, the project is halted due to construction issues. And I don't know if those construction issues had to do with the pandemic, which we were still recovering from at the time. I need to do a little bit more research and update what they've done with that project, because that seems like that would be a fun trip to me. I don't see anything wrong with being able to see an audio-visual simulation of the sinking. I imagine it might be a little emotionally overwhelming for some. Maybe that's the criticism. I'm not sure. Okay, so let's find the next story. And I want to make sure. I was only planning to go live for about an hour, today, so I want to make sure that I stay pretty close to that timeline. Okay. Now, this one, I'm not sure. Sometimes we wrote stories on medium.com as a reply to somebody else who had done an article, or somebody's comment can give you an idea about something that you want to write or that you want to address. And so this next article was, what do you mean you can't function without coffee? And I wasn't really like being critical of people who drink coffee, because I drink tea. I don't drink it every day, however, but I drink it often enough to where I can understand the need for caffeine. Okay. According to Aidan Bromaglen, I am one of those mystical few who function without coffee. I really am. My parents drank copious amounts of coffee every day. They made a 32-cup party perk each morning and drank coffee throughout the day. In our house, we woke every morning to the lovely smell of brewing coffee wafting from the kitchen. Like my sisters, I tried drinking the stuff. Ugh, it was awful. How could something that smells so good taste like this? Every single one of my sisters drinks coffee to this day. I never have, opting instead to infuse my veins with caffeine from tea. Hot tea or cold, it doesn't matter. Like coffee drinkers, it's all about the caffeine. Oh, and the taste. Some people drink it black. Some people drink it iced. Some people drink it with flavored creams. My sister Cindy loves her milk with a touch of coffee. Hundreds of variations exist with one common denominator, the humble coffee bean. Coffee is such a routine part of life. Tony Solovjov writes a timely reminder of what getting back to normal includes, and one of those things is coffee. Even in war-torn Ukraine, you can get great coffee, and he wants to introduce you to his favorite coffee shops in Kyiv. And then I put a link to his article. Kevin Horton wants to know why coffee makes people feel so good, and if there's a link between why he's introverted and doesn't drink it. If you didn't have coffee to bond over, would you still meet at coffee shops and talk? Talking about meeting at coffee shops, the Swedes do it right. Yamini Joshi tells us about fika, coffee breaks with friends and coworkers connecting over chai and fresh pie or biscuits. In this case, it's European biscuits, which are cookies. Nadja Scarlett agrees with Kevin about the drug-like effect of coffee. She quotes an article in Psychology Today that states the chemical dopamine is released when we drink coffee. Dopamine equals feelings of pleasure and satisfaction. Still, she questions coffee's ability to make us kind towards others. So what's up with the jerks that drink coffee every day? Yeah, coffee can't fix that, but imagine them without caffeine. Yikes. Diego Nick Perez warns you to watch your caffeine intake unless you enjoy staying up until 2 a.m. learning about the blockchain. And so apparently he wrote an article about that topic. And that does happen to me as well, but I have to drink quite a bit of caffeine before it affects me like that. Okay. All right. Hallie Coker? Yeah. Hallie Coker thought she might be drinking coffee all wrong because it had no effect on her. Turns out some people have special enzymes that neutralize the effect of caffeine. Who knew? Will Brink lays out the scientific data on whether coffee harms the brain. Studies are mixed. Some show that caffeine reduces cerebral blood flow, while others tout the benefits of coffee itself. He argues that too many of the studies use the words coffee and caffeine interchangeably, and that this is incorrect. Many people have written about the benefits and the downside of coffee drinking, about coffee recipes, fun facts, and the joys of Java. Some have even been moved to write poetry to express their devotion to the beverage, such as Willow Innershire Sterrick's self-care piece called Fresh and Finely Milled, a poem of self-care. It doesn't appear as if coffee drinking, coffee shops, or coffee-themed writing is going to disappear anytime soon. So pour yourself a fresh, hot cup and settle in. I'll be the one in the corner reading a book and sipping on my hot tea. And I used to read the comments that people would leave on my articles, but I realized that the reading the comments themselves could take up so much time that I might not get this project finished as soon as I'd like to. And so I am skipping the comments for now. Okay, and that was the one about coffee. Okay. My next article was also a meta article. And on Medium, you can write about any topic. And one of those topics is about the Medium platform itself. And I have written my fair share of articles about Medium, everything from why you should clap on other people's articles, about leaving meaningful comments, and about how many stories that you read, because the platform does encourage you to build community with other writers. And so this article that I wrote on April the 11th was called What Happens When You Change the Name of Your Headline, when you change your title, or when you pin your article. Okay. So I'm just going to read it through, and that way I feel like I'm doing a more complete job of moving all of what I've written over to the my YouTube channel. Do you have stories that didn't get enough traction? For whatever reason, they didn't get read much or at all, and you're wondering if you can do anything to change that. I wondered too. Well, not about your stories, because I probably haven't seen them, sorry, but about mine. So I decided to do an experiment, and I've experimented a lot. I decided to experiment with two details. Number one, change the title, or two, pin the article to my front page, because you can pin up to 5. You are allowed to pin up to 5 articles to the top of your list. 5 pinned articles is kind of daunting to a reader, so I decided to pin only 3 at a time. Would they still get passed over? Would a new title bring more readers? Would pinning them get a little more love? On March 29, I began my experiment. Below is a list of 11 articles that had absolutely 0 comments and low claps, and how the experiment affected them. And so then I went in and I listed some articles. Okay, that very first one was called Fake Pain Meds in the News. And it said this article has 2 claps and 0 comments. Because I originally published this one in a publication, I decided to make no changes to the title. And to be honest, I wasn't thrilled with the article myself, so I've decided to let it languish where it is. The second one was called Falling for Waterfalls. This article had 102 claps and 0 comments. It was published on November 21, 2021, and it is a 1-minute read and includes a video I made of Nooksack Falls near Mount Baker, Washington. I changed the title to Do You Find Waterfalls Relaxing? And I pinned it. And the next morning it had 200 claps and 1 comment. So, yay! The next article that I chose to experiment on was called The Yellow Bandana. This article had 66 claps and 0 comments. It was published on December 12, 2021, and is a 3-minute dystopian short story. I changed the title to Forbidden Symbols of the Old Planet, and I pinned it. And the next morning it had 200 claps and 1 comment. Yay. So I think I probably had a binge reader, going, because it seemed like more than one person, because you can only clap up to 50 times. So you'd have had to have at least 4 people reading. The next story was called $10,000 Contest for Writers, Poets, and Artists. This article originally had 61 claps and 0 comments. It was published on December 16, 2021, and is a 2-minute news piece. I changed the title to $10,000 Writing Contest that Pays Through PayPal, and I pinned it. And the next morning it had 122 claps and 2 comments. The next story that I experimented on was called Shady Spots, and this article had 159 claps and 0 comments. It was published on December 30, 2021. It's a 2-minute article with pictures from my visit to Nooksack River near Mount Baker, Washington. I changed the title to Do You Enjoy the Shady Spots of Summer? I pinned it, and the next morning it had 330 claps and 3 comments. So rather than go through the last, 4, 5, 6 articles, every single one of them had, by changing the title and by pinning them, was able to get fresh reads from more people and get a little bit more interaction. And so then I summed up the article by talking about the lessons that I learned. Okay, so title and headlines really do matter. I think I've come a long way since my early titles and headlines. They're not perfect now, but I'm more satisfied with my headlines these days than I used to be. Now, this article was written, in April of 2022? And so fast forward a couple of years, and I started using ChatGPT to help me out with my titles and my headlines. And those have gotten even better, because you can ask chat, you can put in a prompt to have it suggest. I usually do 10. I will say, I'll put in a prompt that says, suggest, using this material, suggest 10 alternate headlines or titles for this material. And so then it will give me a pretty good selection, a pretty good choice of titles that I can use. And I usually find one that is probably going to be better than what I would have been able to come up with on my own. I'm not having it write my stories, but it's doing a pretty good job in helping me write titles. And the next lesson I learned was to not forget to pin your stories and to go in and change them occasionally. Pinning your articles is a great way to showcase your best article or ones that kind of got passed over. I like to rotate my articles so that it gives older articles a better chance to be discovered. And my page doesn't start to grow mold on articles that have been there too long. And the thing is too is that when you've been writing on Medium for any length of time, you're going to have new people that have just discovered the platform, and so those people don't know what you wrote 2 years ago or 3 years ago. So by rotating your articles, your older articles, um, you can get another generation of readers even. Okay. Meta articles aren't the most fun, but they do tend to get quite a bit of attention, especially from current writers who are always looking for tips on how to write and what to write about. Okay. Oh, no, here's another one. Sort of like the April 10 story, except this one was today is Drop Everything and Read Day. And in case you haven't heard of it, the acronym is DEAR, Drop Everything and Read Day, and that is April 12th. And my article goes like this. This is my kind of day. It doesn't require you to do anything special. In fact, it requires that you drop whatever else it is that you're doing and just read. This is in my skill set. I have already mastered this, and you can too. DEAR is a national month-long celebration that reminds parents and other readers to make reading a priority by setting aside 30 minutes each day to read. I hope you made plans to celebrate this day by reading those road signs on the way to work, as long as you have a 30-minute commute. Reading the labels on your canned veggies. Reading the instructions on how to put together that IKEA furniture you recently purchased, or checking the dosaging instructions on the back of all your medications. You could just read your favorite book, but you are probably going to do that anyway. Check your local library and bookstores for special events they may be having during the month of April. Your child's school may also be organizing events to celebrate. If so, please share in the comments. I love comments, and for each reader who leaves a comment, I promise to binge read 10 of your articles. But I probably would have done that anyway. This year, why not celebrate DEAR Day by setting the whole day aside to read? Be sure and plan ahead for the day. Buy snacks and other quick foods, or freeze a couple of meals ahead of time so that you can just pop something in the microwave to keep up your strength. If you're feeling really pumped up, you could bake a DEAR cake or host a DEAR party and get the whole block involved in this book-loving day. Reading can be hard work. You may not work up a sweat unless you're reading on the run. Is that even a thing? But reading gives your eyes and brain a real workout, and that may necessitate extra hydration. Remember to stand up occasionally to stretch your legs. This also keeps your bottom from going numb. Remember to turn the volume down on your cell or buy a set of noise-canceling headphones. This will ensure you are not distracted by crying children or barking dogs waiting to be walked. So let's take this celebrating seriously. It's up to the writers of this world to make it a better place. You have the power in the words you choose to write. Let's encourage each other to read more, and together we can save the world one sentence at a time. I must have been in a really good mood the day that I wrote that. Okay. Well, we have 6 minutes left, and one more story, maybe. Okay, and this one was why you feel drawn to color. When it comes to flowers, foods, or anything else, what a boring world it would be if everything was a variation of black and white. Okay, I'm sorry. I should have specified that. Someone in the comments asked what day is Deer Day, and that is, I think it's April 11th. Hold on just a sec. Um, Deer. And that is, no, April 12th. I'm sorry. April 12th is Drop Everything and Read Day. Okay. I probably should have coordinated these with the actual day, because here we are in January and you're going to forget all about Deer Day by the time that April gets here. Okay. Why you feel drawn to color? Of course, there'd be shades of gray from almost black to nearly pure white, but being able to perceive around 10 million colors enriches our lives in countless ways. Your hand alone has colors such as peach, pink, tan, brown, and white skin tones, while veins may show as blue or green, and bruising may show purple, orange, yellow, and red. More importantly, companies know that the colors in their branding can make the difference between success or failure. From the psychology of color to choosing the paint color for our walls to using color as a definition of personality, everyone has something to say about color. And then I linked some articles by other medium writers on the topic of color. And oh, here's one that's interesting. Michael Thacker tells us why blue is his favorite color, or is it black? Do you have a problem with colors when it comes to matching paint shades? Does your wife have to send a note with you? Would you be interested in a new paint company that offers 42 shades of white? Then you're in the right place. Rodrigo SC tells us about his experience in this article. And then, of course, I added the link. And sometimes when we have a problem with color, we just know. Carolina Lacheri talks about colors as triggers for emotions in her article, Colors 101, The Importance of Color Psychology. Colors can persuade and impact human behavior, including spending choices. Lisa Jarvis agrees and talks about her love of the color orange, which she says is mostly from nostalgia. After reading her article, I think she may love the flavor orange instead, but I could be wrong. So, what's your favorite color and why? All right, so I know that I didn't read a lot of my fiction today. I did read about the fictionalized account of the launching of the Titanic, but we're fixing to get back into some of the fiction stories. I just wanted to include all of the stories that I've written, because in each story that I've written, I usually include, uh, you know, maybe one or two nuggets about why I wrote the article, or something. I always personalize what I've written, and so there's always going to be something. And I realized that I was skipping over all of those because of maybe of the topic. But then I started thinking about it, and there's either humor in the article, or something about why I wrote it, or something personal. And so each story, each article has a place here in my collection of YouTube stories as well. And so I wanted to start from this point forward. I wanted to start including those other stories that weren't just fiction, that weren't just stories that I made up out of in my imagination. So I appreciate your being with me today. And now that I'm starting to feel a little bit better, I'm hoping to get back into live streaming each afternoon for just a little bit. And so that I can at least finish this project that I've begun and moving all of my articles. And right now I'm still in April of 2022. And so I've still got 2 years worth of articles that I need to move over. And so I hope that you will have enjoyed some of what I've written today, and I hope that you will come back and visit again. So until next time, bye.